Welcome to this edition of Dufferin Life. I'm your host, Tina Avery. Thank you so much for joining us. It is National Volunteer Week. The two lovely ladies I have joining me come from an organization that uses volunteers in many, many different ways. Joining me today, we have Julianne and Nadine from Headwaters Healthcare Center. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Wonderful. So let's start off by learning a little bit about each of you and what you do. So Julianne, what is it that you do at Headwaters Healthcare Center?
Yeah, so as mentioned, I'm Julianne MacArthur, and I'm the Manager of Patient Relations, Patient Experience, and PFAP. So my role is, has many parts to it, especially in my day. So I have the patient relations side of it,
okay.
And that is where patients and their loved ones provide feedback to the organization. So in 2010, the Ontario government did legislate the Excellent Care Act for all, and that's where that patient relations piece comes into it. So that is something that we are required to do.
Okay.
And then the other part of it is the patient experience, which, based on the feedback that is being provided to us from patients and their loved ones, we then kind of go back to the drawing board. Where can we improve? What can we do different? And with the patient experience part, as we're strategizing and seeing where we can do better and how we can do better, that's where our PFAP comes into play. So PFAP stands for Patient and Family Advisory Program.
Okay.
And in many cases, those are individuals through my patient relations part of my job that have provided feedback to us. And, we've kind of gone through that investigation process, strategized how to do better.
Mm-hmm.
I'll reach out to them and see if, coming on to the advisory program is something that they would love to do.
Okay.
And it's just that whole patient and family advocacy. And it's really important to the organization to have these individuals, which are volunteers, to kind of help us navigate the organization from the community and that outside voice.
And I think one of the things when you speak about advocacy, there we go, I'm tongue-tied already. But when we're talking about that, and I think, because some people have a family that will advocate for a patient that's in there. I know when my mom was in Headwaters, I advocated for her. It was really important that, and I had some wonderful people that I dealt with, and they were really helpful, and they got me what I needed and what my mom needed, more importantly. But there are people that don't have somebody to advocate for them.
Yeah.
So having these volunteers and kind of reviewing the programs, that gives them a voice, even if they don't have somebody that can do it for them.
Absolutely. So, and when that feedback comes into the hospital, that really is my primary role as well, is to advocate for them.
Mm-hmm.
So when we sit down with PFAP, so every month we sit down and we have a meeting, we talk about the challenges that maybe the organization is facing and those things where we can definitely improve.
Mm-hmm.
And PFAP has a say on everything, right? So we're very transparent about what has gone on, those gaps in service, and we sit down and we talk about it. And it's so important to have those individuals give us their perspective and their feedback.
Mm-hmm.
And they're so wonderful. And like I said, it's such a key part to our growth and where Headwaters wants to go, because we are in this really huge transformation right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, PFAP is something that is very key to every single part of the organization right now and what we're doing.
Yeah, and I think, and there's so many different things that you don't realize, and maybe I'm going to ask you this before we jump over to Nadine, but maybe you should explain what advocacy is, because some people may be watching this and have never had someone in the hospital or never had to deal with the situation, and they don't understand maybe what that is.
Absolutely, and a lot of individuals don't even know that this process exists, right? And that there is somebody that you can reach out to and help you advocate. So advocating for a loved one means that, you're essentially kind of standing up for, the care that you believe that you should be receiving, and it's if you feel that a test should have been done or it wasn't done the way that it should have been, you're going to ask questions, right? So asking questions, really standing up for what it is that you believe for, and really taking that care to the next level for your loved one or even for yourself. Mm-hmm. But advocacy in healthcare is so important. And, I always say this when individuals do give me feedback and they are advocating for themselves or a loved one, they become a little bit intimidated that maybe that's going to change the care that they may receive from us, and not at all. It's so important, and we value every single piece of that information that comes into us. And like I said, advocacy is huge. You know, you really want to speak up for yourself and others, and it's very important.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So Nadine, tell us a little bit about who you and what you do.
Sure. I'm Nadine Walters, and I'm the auxiliary lead, volunteer lead.
Okay.
So it's a new position, relatively new, just over a year. And really it was put in place when we came back from COVID.
Right.
Because the volunteers were out of the hospital for essentially the full time up till that point. And so there was a lot of need, I guess, to get volunteers back into the hospital because they were so important. But there was also some new processes and things that needed to be done. And so my role is to make sure that that is done adequately. The auxiliary itself, 70 years old next year, which is pretty amazing. And the heritage and the strength of the auxiliary is amazing. No other way to describe it. We have volunteers who are 16 years old, and we have volunteers who are 86 years old.
Right.
So it's really something. So yeah, so it's my role essentially to help to bring those people into the organization, to work with the departments within the hospital that utilize volunteer support, make sure they're well trained, make sure that they have the role, and that they understand really what I say is the overarching role of what they do, and that is to help make things a little bit smoother, to help make things a little bit easier, because it's a tough time. It's a tough time for the patient. It's a tough time for the family.
Absolutely.
And so the volunteers, I always say, listen, no one really wants to be here because they're typically here because there's an issue. And so if you can make that experience for those people and their families just that much better, easier, less stressful, it's not only a help to them, but it's also help to the staff. So that's really what we try to do with the people that come in to the hospital to volunteer.
Okay, and what types of things does an auxiliary volunteer look after?
So there's at this point, there's really kind of two almost arms or groups of volunteers within the hospital. So there are those that work within the different areas of the hospital. So we have volunteers in emergency, in our dialysis area, in diagnostic imaging, in ambulatory care. So all the different areas within the hospital, as well as we have, we've just recently opened, well, just prior to Christmas, our new cafe and gift shop.
Right.
Which is doing very well. We're very happy for. And then there's really our major fundraising arm, which is Seconds Count, which is the thrift store on Broadway here in Orangeville. And they're phenomenal. They do amazing job. And to give you some perspective, since they've been open, they've managed to raise about $1.7 million, which was given to the hospital. And prior to that, prior to COVID, there were more events and other things. So there was a house tour and things like that, which we haven't yet been able to bring back. Hopefully we will. But since money has been raised for Headwaters over the years, it's close to $4.9 million.
That is amazing. And I think one of the things that we've covered when we have anyone here from the Headwaters Healthcare Center is the amount of money that needs to be raised in order for services to grow, in order to provide high quality services, in order for machinery, that sort of thing. And so when we're talking about volunteering and helping to raise money, it's so necessary. It's so necessary for so many organizations, but very importantly to Headwaters Healthcare.
Absolutely.
So I think I just started talking about it. So let's talk about how important volunteering is for Headwaters Healthcare Center.
Yeah, so, for PFAP, they are utilized throughout the entire organization. So they sit on a lot of our subcommittees as well. So it's not just, the monthly meeting that we have. There's so many different ways that these volunteers are engaged. So for example, they're part of the quality board, they're part of the fiscal advisory, they're part of the reviews that we do. So we did a diagnostic imaging review. There was a PFAP member that sat on that. We're doing an obstetrics review right now. A PFAP member sits on that. Also, when we go through the hiring process with the administration team, so just as of recently, someone was put into the VP role of People and Culture, and a PFAP member sat on that as well. Their input is so very important through every level of the hospital. We also just redid our wayfinding, which I feel a lot of individuals are going to be super excited about. We've really streamlined our wayfinding, and it came to PFAP as well for that. So anything that we're implementing, any new initiatives, renovations, PFAP really has a role in providing feedback to us for all of those different things. So we do have our meetings every month. There are all these subcommittees as well. Right now also, which is really exciting, is that we are going to be creating a new patient experience roadmap, and that's going to be heavily engaged with our PFAP as well. So these volunteers can really make a difference through the organization, and any of those experiences that they've had or their loved ones have had, that's a voice they're going to bring to the table for us to make sure that we can make Headwaters a really, really amazing organization to come to.
Yeah, and I think, you did mention it, and none of us want to be at the hospital, none of us want our loved ones in the hospital, but it happens, and it's really important for that experience to be as positive of an experience for both the patient and the family as well. Nadine, tell me a little bit about the need for volunteers right now.
So really we have two main areas that we need volunteers for. I mentioned the relatively newly opened cafe and gift shop. So we expanded. We've put the gift shop and cafe together, and we have 2 volunteers on at a time, which was previously it was 1. So we've been able to do that and have been very successful from opening hours 8 till 2. So our next phase of opening is from 2 until 5 p.m. Okay. So we need volunteers, some more volunteers for that, and some other volunteers that can just slot in as our volunteers take a break. Looking a little bit further beyond that, we really, really want to get open until 8 p.m. Okay. There's nothing else in the hospital that they can get, and we know there's lots of people in there.
And that's it
that
too.
time.
That's a little bit. You want to look for something, and you're going there in the evening, and if nothing's open, then you don't have anything there. But I would imagine that the need for volunteers, like just the actual need since COVID and the volunteers went away, and you need to either bring some back, and you need to recruit more. And these organizations, everybody, they need help, and I'm going to speak for them, but I'm sure that you can kind of dictate the hours that you have available, right? And there are many other there's a couple other divisions that you can actually volunteer in at the hospital, one of them being telecheck, which is calls that go to seniors 55 and above to make sure that they're doing okay every day. And I know there's spiritual volunteers, and I don't know a lot about that, but you can find out that information with the website that's come up there. So how long have you been doing this?
So I actually just started with Headwaters in January. Okay, wonderful. My role is new to the organization. So, PFAP did exist. It started in 2018. However, the actual patient relations, patient experience.
Wonderful. Ladies, I don't mean to cut you off. It's been so amazing having you here. Thank you so much for joining us.
All right. Thank you for having us.
And thank you for tuning in. Don't go anywhere. We're talking volunteers. There we go. Sorry, I just...
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
This is you volunteering at Rogers TV. Directing TV is the cat's meow. This is you on location reporting on special events in your community. Way to go, Ace. This is you editing video at Rogers TV. Now you're cooking with gas. Why are you there when you can be here, creating TV at your fingertips? Hot diggity dog.
It's not complicated on the next episode of Cinema Scene. It's a compilation episode featuring interviews with Jesse Eisenberg, Michelle Rodriguez, Devin Nakota, and Michelle McLeod.
Hi there, welcome back to Dufferin Life. Thank you so much for staying with us, and we're talking about volunteers this week. And if you're just joining in, we're talking about National Volunteer Week and how you can get back into the community, give a little bit back by spending a little time helping to support different organizations. Joining me today, we have Sherry Lynn Roman. She is from Headwaters Community in Action. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you.
So let's talk about what it is and what Headwaters Community in Action does.
So Headwaters Communities in Action is a overarching umbrella organization that supports community safety and well-being.
Okay.
And so our focus, we have a number of supported projects underneath the HCIA umbrella, and Volunteer Dufferin is one of them. We also have Headwaters Food and Farming Alliance, DC Moves, but I'm specifically working with Volunteer Dufferin.
Well, Volunteer Dufferin is an amazing organization that supports people who want to volunteer, and organizations that are looking for volunteers. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how that works?
Absolutely. So we, as you said, we believe sort of HCIA is we're better together, and at Volunteer Dufferin, we say give a little, get a lot, because we truly believe that by all of us working together, the community will be better. Volunteer Dufferin specifically is a matching service. So we pair people that are looking for volunteer opportunities with the nonprofits and sports organizations and art councils and you name it, with the folks that are looking for volunteers.
Okay, well, you started to mention some of them. So let's talk about how the matching process works online, and then maybe a little bit more about some of the different organizations that are involved.
Sure. So right now we have 160 registered nonprofit organizations, which is amazing. We have over 2,400 registered users of our website. So there's 2,400 people that are looking for volunteer opportunities. And it's a fast, simple, and free process for anyone to get involved. It probably takes, I like to say, it probably takes 5 to 10 minutes to set up your profile. And that is true for either the nonprofit organization or the individual. And essentially, the more you tell us about yourself and what you're interested in, the better likelihood we have to be able to match you with an organization who is looking for those specific skill sets.
Right, and the volunteers that are looking for somewhere to volunteer, because you're getting that information from them, you're matching them, as you said, but they're being able to choose where they would like to volunteer based on what they're interested in.
Absolutely. So they can go into our system anytime and look through all of the posted opportunities. We even help out students, for example, who still need to get their 40 hours of community involvement. We have a little sort of, the grad caps that you wear at graduation. We have the little cap that designates if it's an opportunity that's suitable for student volunteer hours.
Okay.
But you name it, there are board positions, volunteer drivers, helping with trail maintenance, river restoration.
There's such a wide variety of organizations out there, and there's a large number of them on the website at volunteerdufferin.ca that I encourage you to go out and give it a try. And if you've never thought about volunteering and you have some spare time, and I've said this over and over on the show, it gives you a feeling. It gives you that warm, happy, fuzzy feeling helping people. And if you're doing something that you enjoy, it just benefits the two of you.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. And I think one of the reasons that I am so privileged to be able to be involved is because I've always believed that if every person did a little bit, together we would have a huge impact on community. And that's really what our focus is. When I mentioned earlier community safety and well-being, volunteering and giving back and being a part of your community is what helps to support that.
So, I mean, and we know that by helping an organization, by volunteering, you're helping that organization accomplish their goals, what they need to achieve. But what do you think volunteering does for the individual that's actually doing the volunteering?
I think it's a number of things. I mean, it's the satisfaction of knowing that you're doing something good and that you're helping the organization that matters to you. You know, certainly from a student's perspective, it helps them to meet their commitments. We know that for newcomers, it's very often an opportunity. You know, there's sort of a volunteering as a pathway to employment, that it is an opportunity for them to get involved in the community and then helps to build resume skills. So it's very valuable there as well.
And I think for some people who may not think about volunteering or may be a little closer to home and doesn't leave very often, this is an opportunity to work with like-minded people and make connections with people in the community just on the friendship level, if not, you know, a job moving forward, that sort of thing.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. We just had a phone call not too long ago from Dufferin County, and they're looking to do a team building volunteering activity, and so that's something that we're happy to support. So there's lots of reasons that people want to get involved, and if I could take the opportunity to say that we also like to say, these aren't our words, but they're sort of words that we live by, that there's 3 ways to get involved as well. So not everybody is comfortable going out and perhaps coaching a baseball team. Perhaps some folks are more comfortable doing strategic level planning at the board governance level. So we like to say that there are 3 ways that you can volunteer, and that's with your wisdom, your wealth, or your work.
Right.
So if you like the hands-on, we've got plenty of that. If you are more focused on board governance, that's the wisdom. And wealth is if you have the available resources to be able to donate.
Right.
That's a way of volunteering your time and talents as well.
Absolutely. And I think there's just such a wide variety of things that you can do. And I think that for some people who may not have even thought about volunteering, sometimes you go have an experience, whether it's a family member being sick or something happening to yourself personally, or you hear about something and, you know, it just inspires you to want to learn more and help more. And in a lot of ways is for people to create awareness for what they're volunteering for and just spreading the word.
Absolutely. We know that before the pandemic, about 80% of the population was volunteering, either formally or, to your point, informally. Lots of people are providing in-home care, perhaps to an elderly parent. That's a form of volunteering your time, caregiving. And then, as you say, through that you learn, maybe you've developed some valuable skill sets that you then are willing to share with others and help them go through their similar experience. Unfortunately, after the pandemic, we've seen a pretty big hit to the volunteer sector, and right now organizations are struggling. More than 50% of them are actively always looking for volunteers right now.
Wonderful. And I mean, I don't know, and I've talked about this before on the show. When I do the show, Dufferin Life, as a host, I'm a volunteer. And you may be thinking, well, you're not necessarily, you know, helping, you know, an organization, but my job, or what I feel is my job and what I love to do, is to bring people on the show and to create awareness for all of these different organizations, so that I'm not just speaking on one topic, but we're speaking on many. And I think that's a lot of it too. If you don't want to volunteer, correct me if I'm wrong, another way is to let other people know about these opportunities.
Absolutely. This is a fantastic opportunity to share what Volunteer Dufferin does, but in turn, Volunteer Dufferin can now, you know, sort of help advertise for all of the nonprofits in our community that are always looking for volunteers. So this is a great form of volunteering that you're doing. And for folks that aren't comfortable being in front of the camera, you know, somewhere like the Orangeville Food Bank, where you're behind the scenes and taking an active role, packing boxes and helping feed families.
Absolutely.
That's a
Working for
great
something
way.
like telecheck, which we were talking about very briefly in the segment before, just calling people just to make sure they're okay. I've had people that haven't had a lot of people around them, and they're like, I want to help people who are alone, who may need someone just to talk to on the phone. So you don't have to necessarily be a face on TV. You don't necessarily have to be out trying to fundraise and collect funds. But there are so many things that you can be doing in the background, as you said, to help organizations. And it's just a matter of kind of going and finding what you want to do.
And we can help you do that with our website at volunteerdufferin.ca.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and how long have you been doing this? How long have you been working with Volunteer Dufferin?
Right. So I've actually been under contract with them just since last June. So I'm relatively new to the role, and very lucky to be a part of it. I have a pretty long history of volunteering in the community myself in a number of different capacities. So when this position became available, I sort of put my hand up and went through the process, and I'm very lucky to be here. And I've met so many people throughout Dufferin County now that it's just been a fabulous opportunity. Yeah.
So if there are people that are thinking that they might like to do something, I don't know, let's say for instance, whether it's a food bank or calling, they don't need experience. They'll be trained on how to do all of this?
Absolutely. Most organizations have, a pretty open door policy. Whatever it is that you're interested in doing, they'll spend some time sharing, training, going through the process of what's involved in helping them. But it's just sign up for something.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of, I mean, we don't have a lot of time left, but in terms of, the amount of time, the volunteers are in total control as to how much time.
Absolutely. Yep, you volunteer as much or as little time as you have available, and the website, when the organizations are registering with us, they will very clearly state what it is that they're looking for, whether it's an hour a week, 5 hours a month. That will all be part of the posting as well. So you'll know up front what you're committing to.
Absolutely. And, for anybody who's watching the show and doesn't necessarily want to be on screen, and I'm just doing a little plug during Volunteer Week for Rogers TV, if you want to get involved in the what's happening in the background, because you can't see what's happening behind me or around me, but there are opportunities there. Or if you're thinking of even maybe there's a show you want to do that will allow you to express your skill and share with the community. And I think that's what it's all about, is just giving something a try. And if you don't like it, they can try something else or do multiple.
Yep, absolutely. All doors are open all the time. And however we can support people in finding the right opportunity for them, we're happy to do it.
Wonderful. Sherilyn, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And thank you for joining us. And until next time, bye-bye for now. So we're...
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
He fell. Whoa, I'm not driving. I'm way too stoned. How are you feeling, Veer?
Since we had that talk, I'm not driving tonight at all.
What about you,